We got everybody other than Director Tyndall, I think. So I think we can move forward without Director Tyndall to get the next couple of things done. Okay. Okay, so we're back live and council just met in camera in regards to two matters, one being the appointment of a new member of the Committee of Adjustments. So we have a motion that's coming to the floor. I need a mover and a seconder for the motion to appoint Councillor Maybe and then Councillor Fody. That council appoint Ron DeVries to the Committee of Adjustment for the remainder of the council term, and that council confirm that the Committee of Adjustment membership of Peter O'Hare for the remainder of the council term. So are there any further discussions in regards to these appointments and maintenance? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? And the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda, number 5, is the consent agenda. And I'll read the motion out and ask for a mover and a seconder that council adopt the March 30th, 2021 special meeting and the April 6th, 2021 committee of the whole meeting minutes. That council receive and file the February 23rd, 2021 committee of adjustment meeting minutes. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Deputy Mayor Lackey and then Councillor Jameson. Any discussion on the motion? Any errors or omissions in those minutes as circulated? I don't see any hands going up, so I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and the motion is carried. Okay. So staff reports. So there is the next motion that's on the floor is that council approves staff reports as recommended at the April 6, 2021 committee of the whole meeting. I need a mover and a seconder to put this motion on the floor. Deputy Mayor Lackey and then Councillor Maybe. That council approves staff reports as recommended at the April 6, 2021 committee of the whole meeting. Any discussion on this motion? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. One of the ones is the water meters in Lansdowne. They were changed. I would love to say not long ago, but they changed from mechanical, whereby you know, our Aqua people would go around and actually physically read them. They went to electronic. So I would say, you know, someone's dropped the ball on this, on these meters. And it's unfortunate because, you know, the water and sewer, we're looking for people to build here in the community and put money into the system. So I don't know whether it's Aqua, you know, in the report, it's whether it's Aqua, it's whether it's the manufacturer. We need to find out and we need to get this rectified. And then the other one, I'm sorry, is illumination. There was a report and a replacement of the street lights with LEDs. Which should have been done in Lansdowne, Saley's Bay, Lyndhurst. All the street lights were supposed to have been replaced with LEDs. So follow-up would be good. And
I'm a bit confused. The illumination study was about addition to illumination at different intersections. I don't think it was specific.
Thomas Road, and there was lots of different intersections that they looked at, but there was also other than that, in the budget, they were supposed to have replaced streetlights. which was never done.
Director of Operations, do you want to speak to that?
Through you, Your Worship, this is the first that I've heard that there are streetlights that are to be replaced. I can certainly look into it and get back to you with that.
Thank you, Director. Councillor Jameson?
If we're referring to, I know the street lights up in Sealy's Bay and Lyndhurst were attended to during that project from a few years ago now. It was just the entrance and exit lights and a couple of other spots. So I think I was very satisfied with the, and I'm speaking to the Deputy Mayor's point, but I was very satisfied with Director of Operations response and the commitment to staff to look at this in the longer term. And also, I think we need to circle back on a bunch of this stuff to the ministry, MTO, and the county, rather than having to shoulder all this expense ourselves when to me, it's their responsibility. But I drag on. I support the Director of Operations report.
Thank you, Councillor Jameson. Is there any further discussion or concerns in regards to accepting the staff reports? Oh, Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Just in regards to the water meters, I do believe that the Director of Finance, Kate, indicated in her briefing that they have a mitigation plan to capture any meters that are not responding properly to the system in the future. So I do believe that as much as there may be some misses that have happened over the last little while, that it's well in hand at this point to make sure that those misses are not continued on. And I appreciate that report that she wrote up that indicated that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maybe. Are there any additional questions or concerns in regards to the reports? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and the motion's carried. Thank you. Okay. So the next motion on the floor is for information items, and none of the councillors came forward wanting to pull any of the specific items ahead of time. So if there is a request, the motion that's coming forward is that the information items be received and filed unless they're excluding any of these that need to be discussed. So with that, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder that the information items be received and filed. Can I have a mover? Councillor Olkey and then Councillor Gorell and a seconder. Okay, so the motion is on the floor. Councillor Gorell, go ahead.
Sorry, I would like to just have a brief discussion on, I guess it's SR 047-21, the Fire Service Strategic Plan.
Sure, you can have some brief discussion. If it's something we need to pull, we'll make that decision and we'll amend the motion. Go ahead.
Okay, regarding that, I notice also the following the fire safety grant 04821. Quick question, down about point number 5 or 6, it talks about notebooks in the fire safety grant, $6,800 for some notebooks, and I got the impression it was to put in our fire trucks and 2 auxiliary vehicles perhaps. And then, so my question is, also back in the fire report, there was some mention of updating, excuse me, I'll just pull it up here. There it is. There was a mention here in number 6. Staff assisting with records management, modernization funding, procure 6 notebook style vehicles. Are those the same items that we applied for some grant money and got. And the reason I'm asking is I'm a little confused also about the $20,000 that we set aside for asset management notebooks and so on. So are we up to $27,000 now, or is there a bit of crossover in this? Thank you.
Acting Fire Chief, do you want to speak to this, or do you want to defer it to the Director of Finance? I'm not sure who's handling the P's and Q's in which column. Is the Acting Fire Chief frozen? I think he might be because he hasn't moved. He's very still. Director of Finance, do you have any addition to this until we get the Fire Chief back on?
Sure, through your worship. So I know we did set aside some modernization money to buy tablets, and that did include some for fire. And I apologize because I'm not sure what the other reference is actually related to. I don't honestly know if that's an addition or not. I'm not sure if Kim Goodman might know more than me.
Director Goodman. Oh, we have the Acting Fire Chief back.
I'm back.
Mr. Pryor, we're just seeking some clarification in regards to the funding. There's 20,000 that was set aside for, I'm not sure what you heard of Councillor Gorell's question. Did you hear his question?
Yes, I heard it all. I just somehow got frozen in technology. So the $6,900 grant money, that was for just for the fire halls themselves and 2 laptops for the training center. So yes, that was separate. The recommendation number 6 on the actual fire service review strategic plan, it shouldn't say notebook style. They should have been the tough book style. So basically they're a heavier duty computer to put in the truck so that we can run our crisis program, and we can run our some more online stuff and start our processes like at the scene of the calls. So they are 2 separate. The first one was more just for our training records within stations so that the folks can come in and have a quiet place to work or good access to the internet in our stations.
Thank you for that clarification. Councillor Gorell, do you want to follow up?
Yes, and thank you very much for that, Mike. That clarifies it for me. The other item with the training center, and a nice paragraph there. And I just wonder if you can just touch on, it seems to me that there's some success there when I read the training center paragraph. I don't pretend to understand the ins and outs of fireman training, but I see references to South Frontenac. I see references to South Stormont over the next few months, and I know subject to COVID, but that seems to be on the right track. Am I misinterpreting something there, or are we getting happier? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Go
ahead.
Through your Mayor. Yes, we're hopefully going to be able to keep on going. We are taking all precautions. Fire College has basically let us continue on as long as our municipality continues on and lets us do it. We've spaced out all our folks in the training center, and any training that we can do that can be outside, such as the offsite deliveries and the training center rentals. We're doing as much of that outside as we can and staying within COVID protocols.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we're on the right track so far.
Great. Mike, would you say, again, I don't want to put you on the spot, but just generally overall, are we seeing an improvement then in the usage and sort of revenue generating side of the fire training center?
Compared to last year, absolutely. We were only able to actually have 1 or 2 courses last year at the training center, so we're already way ahead. We've only had 1 course so far that we've had to cancel due to numbers signing up, but we've also got we've also been able to reschedule something coming in for May for that, as well as we have the possibility of a college in Ottawa looking to do a fire day or 2 with us. So as long as we can keep everybody safe and healthy, we'll be in good shape.
Okay, great to hear. Just one final point, and it's a little off track here, but I read in the newspaper a couple of weeks ago about a study that came to county council, and it says that the 13 municipal fire departments be amalgamated into one. And it kind of lit my thinking up here. So is the county, it didn't seem to be well received, but is a report going to come back to this municipality? Because that was its concluding statement there, that councils will receive some kind of report and have to make some discussions. And I appreciate it's way down the road, but is that something, it never, I didn't read those words in our fire review. I didn't read any words that even approach that in our fire review. So it seems that they're quite distant in their thinking. And Mayor, you were maybe received that report. I don't know. I'm reading it out of a newspaper, so I don't know its accuracy. I'm just curious, are you going to get a follow-up report from that? Thank you.
I'll defer to CAO on this one, and then I'll go to Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. I discussed the county report with former Chief Lawson when it came out, and he was astounded by the recommendations that were in the county report. There's a pretty tight-knit network of fire chiefs throughout the township, and they talk to one another. And they felt a little bit blindsided by the recommendations in the committee or in the county report, because amalgamations of services were not something that any of the fire chiefs discussed at any length or supported. So to have this recommendation come through, I think the sentiment amongst the fire chiefs was it was rather self-serving. There was more interest in perhaps realizing economies through buying power, but I saw the article that you did, Brock, and it seemed that the savings was nominal at best on something like that. I imagine the administration of that and the bureaucracy around it would eat up a lot of the savings that otherwise would be realizable.
So I take it we won't expect to see that report coming across our desks, I don't think. Fair to say?
I think it's received. I was part of the delegation that received that and can reiterate what was printed in the newspaper. It fell very flat and missed the mark. So I don't believe you'll see any action coming forward at the county level. At least there's been no discussion further to that. And I believe that the fire chiefs, you won't see it come any further. But both reviews happened at the same time. And I do know, if I'm not mistaken, our people were included in that review. But I believe our consultants that did our review also spoke to the consultants on doing the other reviews. So it wasn't that they were working in silos, but I think that they had two very different perceived outcomes. Is maybe the best way of putting it. But like the CAO just indicated, the whatever savings that would happen across the counties to centralize, the administration alone would be very difficult and would eat up any savings that would be through efficiency, seen through efficiency. So Councillor, maybe you have a question, and then I'll recognize Deputy Mayor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you on that last topic. A little bit of smoke and a little water has been put on it, so maybe it's out. My first question would be, with the strategic plan for the fire department, is there ever going to be a Coles Notes version given to the population of the fire department so that they understand maybe what is potentially going to happen in the future around the fire department? Because it did have a lot of good information, and a Coles Note version might go a long way to helping them understand how we actually get through some things. And the only other question I had was, I know I asked a couple months ago, whether there's any future lands around the Sealy's Bay area for a new fire hall in that borough if we so choose to put one there, and whether there's actually vacant township land available. And then the other thing that I talked about, I actually talked to Operations Director David about the Marble Rock Road earlier today through an email. So that's it for me. Thank you.
I'll go back to the acting fire chief in regards to the Coles Notes version, and if anything has been distributed from a communication piece to our firefighters. And then also high level, if you could just speak to future discussions about fire halls.
Through your mayor, I'm meeting with my officers, my station captains this week regarding the fire master plan and our plan with that. Haven't been able to actually meet as a group. I can certainly give the rest of the officers basically the Coles Notes version. Just been trying to put this all together for council review to begin with, so that we kind of have a plan before we go too far within it. As far as Sealy's Bay Fire Station, we haven't spent a whole lot of time looking. I know it was in the last fire master plan, and it was also in the strategic plan this time. But there is some areas that we could definitely look at. I don't know whether they're township owned at this point, but that's certainly something that I'd like to certainly look at coming up.
Okay,
Thank you.
are there further questions in regards to the information items? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. And through you, the CAO had mentioned, about our chiefs. We have a chief, we have an acting chief. I think it's, versus captains from the individual stations. The question I have is, according to the Municipal Act, what are we required to have?
Go ahead, CAO.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you, through the Municipal Act and the Fire Prevention and Protection Act, I may have that name backwards. We do need to have a designated chief who has the powers vested under the legislation. So when former Chief Lawson retired, if you will recall, Deputy Mayor, we passed a resolution appointing Mike Pryor as the acting chief, and that gave him the necessary authority to act under the statutory requirements that a fire chief would.
Go ahead.
Just to ask, I as far as I remember, we're required to have the Safety Act, but I believe we're not under the regulation. We don't have to have a deputy chief. I do believe we have to have a chief. The one we had was part-time. So I just feel that, and no slight to you, Mike, but it just feels like we added another piece to the puzzle. We added another employee that's paid that we don't have to.
CAO?
Thank you, Worship, and to the Deputy Mayor. With respect, the deputy position was added to focus on the training center and the training of our services, our firefighter services, and to do other duties within the township. So that was a decision by council to add that position. We do need a chief. I think the role being fire chief with a focus also on fire prevention is where we need to be. The recommendation in the fire review was certainly focused on fire prevention and mitigating liability to the township with respect to that. So we have, when we go out for our recruitment, which should be out tomorrow, The job posting will be out tomorrow. Fire prevention is a very big part of that job, on top of the maintenance or management and administration of a fairly sizable fire service.
Thank you for the clarification, CAO. Any further comments in regards to the information items in front? Go ahead, Councillor Foti.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, just for clarity on the Deputy Mayor's question, did we not reduce our financial obligation to the fire department when the chief stepped down and resigned? Because that paid position is no longer. I mean, Mike was already a full-time employee, or our deputy chief and our safety officer.
CAO.
Thank you, Worship. Through you. Yes, we did realize some savings while we aren't paying the chief's salary. Acting Chief Pryor is entitled, pursuant to our HR policy, for a bump because he's assumed additional obligations. So he's collecting a higher salary as we speak. But yes, there is a savings. As long as we're not paying for a fire chief, we are realizing some savings.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor
Gorell. Just if I may, just moving away from fire and so on, I was wondering on the unplanned road repairs, it is an information item. I just wondered if ops could just expand on that a little bit. From this point of view, when I read it, I thought, okay, something's deteriorated, but where my mind went was in terms of budgeting, there must be some contingency plan in an operations budget that would allow for some contingency. So I got to thinking, how big a number are we talking here? And I realized that report is going to come out in May. But is there anything is there anything you can add at this time, David, or anything useful? Or because the other side of this is like a technique, you set a budget and then all of a sudden, oh, this happened. We need to realign the budget, and that's being polite. And I just wonder if that's, has the budget put you in a bad position here? Was it too harsh in road operations? I don't know the answer, but I'll be looking for an answer come May, I guess. Thank you.
Director, would you like to speak to that?
Through you, Your Worship. Recently, the frost has been coming out of the ground, and we have found some soft spots in some of the roads. Barryton Road was one, Marble Rock Road, which I spoke to incorrectly in my report, Vanson Road, just to name a few. It's just boils coming up through the middle of the road that are making them impassable in some locations. We didn't anticipate this. It's not a long stretch of road, and Marble Rock's point, it is. It's pretty substantial, which I think the unplanned detour led to that as well, helped cause that. But I think there's been a long-standing issue at that location. I wasn't aware of this until this spring. So we're looking at these to see, from now until May, we'll see how they react to the frost actually coming out of the ground and everything drying up a little bit, but keeping those in mind that there are these soft spots in the road that we're going to have to do something with, whether we have to put sub-drains in or some additional granular, dig it out. There's the possibility that there's like a clay barrier between the rock and the surface of the road, and it never compacts. So some of these things that I wasn't aware of, these areas where drainage has been a challenge, they're coming to the surface now, pardon the pun. And we're seeing the result of this. So this is we need to assess these and make sure that we're taking everything into consideration. And in terms of the budget, like I said, this wasn't planned for. We were looking at long stretches of road for rehabbing and providing services. These weren't apparent in the fall. So that's where we're at right now.
I see that the CAO had something to add to that discussion, I believe. So I'll let him in and then I'll make a comment about Marble Rock and then I'll go back to Council Burrell if he has a follow-up and then to Deputy Mayor Lackey. Go ahead, CAO.
Thank you, Worship. And I think Director Holliday made it clear. Of course, we expect the frost to come out of the ground every year. We know that that happens. This year, we've just identified areas that are far worse than what we expected, and hence the need for this report and doing costs. This week, operations is doing a full assessment of all our gravel roads. So we'll have a better picture of the state that we're in and what action needs to be taken on this.
So Councillor Grell, did you want to follow up on that or can I make my comments?
No, you go ahead. I think I'll wait for further reports. I have quite a bit to say on that actually, but later.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I appreciate the comments that Councillor Grell has made, and I too have had a number of conversations with the Director of Operations in regards to the roads and the road reports and the unforeseen circumstances that might be boiling up through the middle of some of these non-surface treated roads. So the road needs analysis that was directed to council recently was just for surface treated roads. The secondary report that's coming forward that the Director of Operations is speaking to is the non-surface treated roads. So that overview has not been done in a comprehensive manner and is in the process of going to be done and presented to council. But the interesting piece about the Marble Rock Road specifically is we had a fatality on Highway 32, which was very, very unfortunate. And our condolences go to the family of the gentleman who passed away there at Maple Grove Road at the He2 subdivision. And they detoured traffic for almost a day, I believe. And the one thing that a lot of people don't realize, and I didn't realize until I had a lengthy discussion with the Director of Operations, is that the half loads were on that road. All the traffic was directed from Highway 32 over Marble Rock Road. So you're talking about a secondary road that was not meant to take that sort of volume of traffic for that duration during half loads, during spring, all of these, it was sort of like a perfect storm. Would that be the proper term, Director of Operations? It was a perfect storm for it to deteriorate very quickly. And, I know that the director was speaking to our counterparts at county in regards to how we might look at that in the future if there needed to be a detour again off Highway 32. But these are things that we don't really think about when we're sitting here at the table about how these roads might be affected for something as simple as a detour, depending on how long it was going to happen for, what time of year it was going to happen at. So, that what happened on on Marble Rock Road was unforeseen for sure, and not something that was planned for and was in up until this year in decent condition. But circumstances changed, unfortunately, that just in that one specific instance. But I know that I'm looking forward to seeing that report come forward for the non-surface treated roads and the traffic counts that are going to happen on that. So with that, I'll go to the Deputy Mayor and then we'll try to wrap this up as much as we can.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. First of all, we got to get a cap on the big red spending machine. And I'll leave it at that. As far as public works, I think we need to stay away from road construction. What I've seen in the past is we're doing, we're doing the preparation work, and then we're having a company come in and doing the surfacing. So in reference to Marble Rock, in my terms of council, we've done that road 3 times. And you know what? You can't get a transport underneath the bridge on 32. I think it's 13 feet. So there wasn't a ton of tractor trailer traffic going down that road. And even if there was, that road should have held up. And that should go back to a warranty issue, which we can't because we're the ones that did, the original work. And same as LaRue's Mills. It's like, we shouldn't be in the road building business. We should be in the maintenance business. Let the companies that build roads, let them build our roads. Then we get a warranty and we maintain them. It seems to me like it's pretty easy.
So I will recognize Councillor Jameson.
Just to touch on the Barrington Road. That particular challenge on the Barrington Road is bad. I went over there and took a look and alerted the director, and the response was great. Got a cone out there right away. But at the same time, as was brought to my attention by other residents, some of the prep on the gravel roads, I'm thinking of Old Briar Hill as well as Barrington Road, have been the best that they've seen them in years. And this is just to get them ready to do something serious. So I just want to draw that to our attention because I think some great strides have been made in a very short space of time. But when you're looking at that Barrington Road bubble up, it's uniquely different than I've certainly seen and other residents have seen in many, many years. So we've got something going underneath there that's going to have the attention of our operations. But I appreciate the response. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Any further comments in regards to the information items at hand? Seeing none, I'm going to make one last comment, and that's in regards to the petition that was received by the municipality. We received this petition in regards to a 6% tax increase. I do believe that the petition was sent out with incomplete information. I sincerely don't want to diminish people's concern about the tax increase that has happened, which equates to 2.7%, which is the overall tax increase. So I think that the petition, as it was circulated, was somewhat misleading and incomplete in its information. So the overall tax increase for this municipality for the 2021 budget is 2.7%. And in light of losing almost 100% of the casino funds that fund our infrastructure, I think that a 2.7% increase is considerably better than what it could have been. And I appreciate the efforts of the staff members who have cut as much as possible in their respective budgets to ensure that we keep the tax increase as minimal as possible at the 2.7. So that's all that I will speak to in regards to that petition. Are there any further comments on any other information items before I call the question? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion at hand, please signify. All those opposed, and the motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, next motion that's coming to the floor is that council approve the quotation from Hartington Equipment for the purchase of a new 36-inch brusher head in the amount of $30,222.72, inclusive of net HST, and that the council approve the quotation from Hartington Equipment for the purchase of a new mid-mount mower in the amount of $43,655.04, inclusive of net HST. Can I have a mover and a seconder for the motion? Councillor Gorell and Councillor Olkey. Discussion on the motion. Councillor Fody, Councillor Gorell, Councillor Olkey, and then Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to our Director of Operations. Congratulations. This tractor that you put back into use has been sitting collecting dust and absolutely irritating me every morning I go to work seeing it sit back there. And it was deemed useless, but the moment we had one stolen from the waste site, immediately this tractor was healthy. Anyway, having said that, the repairs you've done on this tractor were minimal on tractor repairs. And then to put the brush head on it, the mower head on it, and the repairs and still come in under budget, kudos to you, the Director of Operations. That is good work right there. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Fode, and then Counselor Garrell, and Counselor Olkey, and then Counselor Maybe.
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship. I would echo Councillor Fode's comments because I was a little confused that we had a tractor. I'm not an expert by any means in heavy equipment, but how can we have a tractor sat there and then all of a sudden for $4,000 of improvements, you've got something back on the road? It really leads one to wonder what the thinking was. So furthermore, do we have then two vehicles? We have one with a side mower. That's the unit that came back into use. And we have this John Deere 7420, which is clearly a larger version. And this mower, am I right so far that it'll have a mower head hydraulically operated? Is it a thrasher or is it a mulching mower? What is the definition of this thing? Because that thrasher, I've never liked it. I don't think anybody likes that thing going down the road. It is just a mess in a residential style area. That thing should be banned. Thank you.
Director, would you like to speak to that?
Your Worship. Yes, so the side mount mower is going on the tractor that we just put back into service. And then the brusher head is to replace the existing brusher head on the larger John Deere with the arm. Now, to your concerns afterwards about the residential areas, I think we can do a better job of cleaning up after we are done and timing our brushing efforts so that we're not doing it when the leaves are on the trees and it looks like we're butchering the trees. It's much less abrasive when there are no leaves on the trees, and when it grows back in, you'd never know that we were there except for the branches are back from the road. So that we will commit to doing a better job of our cleanup efforts after the brusher head has gone through.
Just to follow up on that, so David, it is the same type of I call it a chain flail or whatever, because it really just splits trees and saplings. Is that the unit that we've replaced here? I thought we were going for, the previous operations manager told me we were going for something that would be less damaging to trees. I mean, there are examples everywhere of, I'll call them saplings, being absolutely just splintered. And I've had that thing run down many roads, and the operator will be up, moving high up in the tree. I said, why would you be up there so high? He said, well, I'm making clearance for the dump truck or something, or the snow plow. Well, it really is a pretty sad looking piece of work. And so I'm not in favor if it's that same thing. I mean, yes, if we have to replace it, we replace it, but I was hoping for something better for the past 2 years. Thank you.
So through you, Your Worship, this is a little bit different. The one that we have purchased, that both units are made for brushing. There's not too many options for changing route brush heads, but the one that we have selected is more durable and has a different type of teeth. So the original one had blades that it kind of threw the blades at the trees, and this one has more like it's like a little square that that's mounted to the drum. So it's what you see on typical brush heads. I think it'll make smaller splinters that come off the trees, but it's on a drum that rotates and chews into the tree and shoots it down towards the ground. Similar process, a little different type of head on it.
Okay, so I'll go to Councillor Olkey and then Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to the operations director. One of the things I hear about is that our mowing doesn't cut a wide enough swath. So there's a lot of weed and stuff left between the road and fence lines. Is this the right equipment to deal with that too, or have we extended our reach off the margins of the road with this, or will things continue as they were as regards mowing? Thank you.
Through Your Worship, our mowing efforts are the side mount, and we have a front mount mower as well. The head that we have replaced on the John Deere tractor, it's specifically for brushing, to continue our brushing efforts at the same time. I think the sense that I get, the reason that people are unhappy with the mowing process is because our tractor was broke down for the majority of the season last year. we were unable to mow. And now not only will we have one unit that should be functioning because it's had some work done on it, but now we have a secondary unit as well where we can continually mow. So we can constantly be cutting back more. In terms of cutting fence line to fence line, that is something that we can do. There is a cost associated with that, obviously, to achieve that. It's a little slower, but it is possible. It certainly is. It's, I guess, whatever, ultimately at the end of the day, whatever we want to do, we can do that.
Councillor Maybe, and then Councillor, Councillor Maybe, then Deputy Mayor Lackey.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. It's great to hear that we're going to be cutting further back, so the grass is cut further back. As I alluded to last couple times I brought this up, it's only about 1.5 to 2 feet on my road that I see cut, and there's a lot more past that point. The other thing is the actual brand name of the equipment that you're actually going to purchase. And typically we see the 3 tenders who possibly put in a bid on this, and I didn't see that in your report as we normally do. Thank you, Director.
Sorry, through you. We did receive 3 quotes on this. We were in line with our procurement policy to receive quotes for purchasing these pieces of equipment. I believe that I included a chart in the report. I apologize. I don't actually have it open in front of me. But I thought that I had included a chart. Okay.
The clerk is going to share it.
Yeah. We're having some technical difficulty with iCompass and the charts that I've included. I think she's bringing it up here now.
She's just looking for them. Just give her 2 seconds. She wants to make sure she's pulling up the right one here. Can everybody see that up on the screen now?
Yes.
Yep. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
So we received 3 quotes for both the brush head and for the mower. The brush head is the same manufacturer that makes the arm and all the hydraulics. So we reached out to that group, and then we reached out to 2 additional groups to get prices for that. And Hartington Equipment came in cheapest for both units that we got quotes on.
So I know that the clerk has.
Thank you. Yes, I didn't see that full chart on what I.
So the clerk has a ticket in with iCompass in regards to getting that fixed. I had the same question. So there's a flaw in the program that we're trying to get fixed. So we apologize for that error or that lack of information to the rest of council, but hopefully it'll be fixed in the near future. And any further questions, Councillor Maybe?
Thank you very much.
Okay, and Deputy Mayor?
That's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. You know, these mowers, roadside mowers that we've had historically are very small on the arm. When I see the mowers on the parkway and I see the mowers from the county, they're far different mowers. They're, you know, they do a much larger swath, if you will, to do the ditch line. So I'm not sure why we're not leaning that way.
Director, do you want to speak to that?
Yep, through you, Your Worship. The municipality that I just came from, they're purchasing two tractors similar to what you're speaking to, and each one of those is roughly $300,000 per unit. So they're trying to cut a county-wide, 100-foot wide right of way, and some of ours are 35 feet, some are 40 feet. Typically, full width we're 66 feet. And like I said, we're not right now. The current practice hasn't been to cut from fence line to fence line. It's been to cut a pass on the local roads. we could purchase a larger tractor and cut from fence to fence, but we are looking at about $300,000 per unit for that.
Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, and through you to the director. I realize it's a safety issue on corners to cut down, some of the weeds, some of the grass, so that you have a better line of vision. But our machine only cuts what? Not even it. I don't even think it cuts 3 feet. So again, I'm just wondering why I feel we're the only ones that are using the wrong equipment.
So the brusher head that we were purchasing is only 3 feet wide. The side mower that we were purchasing is 5 feet wide. And then the existing front mount mower that we have is 6 feet wide as well.
Perfect. Let's see how it works.
Well, the good news is that it will be on tractors that are in working order and won't be out of service this summer. So that will go a long way. Any further question in regards to the motion that's on the floor in regards to approving the 2 purchases for a 36-inch brusher head and mid-mount mower? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and we're carried. Thank you. Next motion on the floor, I will need a mover and a seconder that council authorize staff to increase the tender amount for the purchase of the new model 3/4 ton truck from $61,255.45 to $65,071.09. I'm having trouble tonight. I apologize. Inclusive of the net HST. And I'm actually going to have the director speak to this very briefly before I take questions. Oh, sorry. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor, maybe were you putting your hand up to move that? That's okay. I'll take Councillor Jameson and then Councillor Foley. Okay. Okay, I'm going to let the director speak to this and then I'll take questions.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship. So we came to council in February with the tender for the 3/4 ton. The tender was awarded, and we sent the letter to the vendor, notifying them that they were approved with their submission. And it was at that time that they realized that they'd made an error. It was actually their the supplier that had made the error on their behalf. So I spoke with them, and they were going to reach back out to the supplier about the error. So what the error was is the supplier had submitted a price for stading plow and sander, but had failed to include the cost of the sander for $7,500. So they were kind of left in a tough position. So when I spoke with them, they were going to reach out to the supplier and see what sort of support they would provide. They called me back that the supplier did not offer any sort of support, which is disappointing. But needless to say, we wanted to work with these guys, and they saw it as an opportunity to work with us. So they asked what we could do to make this work. And the suggestion was that we share the cost of the sander. So we're receiving they're proposing that we receive a $7,500 sander for $3,750. We share the cost 50-50. So that to me, I felt was reasonable. And that's why we're bringing a report to you guys to see how you feel.
Councillor Gorell, and then Councillor, maybe, did you have a question? No? Okay, sorry. So Councillor Gorell, go ahead.
Through you, Your Worship, and this may be more to the CAO, Steve, and so on, but my concern would be, so there was an error made by someone in a procurement process. So now we're negotiating the error, but could not one of the other participants in the original RFQ say, hey, wait a minute, that should have been a disqualification. I'm not a genius in this area, but I would like some guidance in that, because I do like the cost saving. It's just that I would like clarification on the process. So thank you very much.
CAO, do you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you. Um, if the error resulted in the Myers Group not if we allowed them to correct the error, and it would have changed the outcome of the procurement. So if it was the other way around, if they had come to us and they had lost the procurement and they said, oh, we found an error and now we're the lowest price, well, that's lawsuit written all over it. In this case, we looked at it, and even if they, without any sort of splitting of costs, if they said, no, we have to charge you the full 7,500, they still would have won the procurement. So the risk of one of the other two bidders coming back on us, they haven't got a case because they still would have lost regardless. And our procurement documents provide that we can negotiate at any time. So in the negotiation, we wanted to balance out, we wanted to be fair to Myers, but we didn't want to risk having them walk away. And then instead of talking about coming back here and adding $3,700, I think the next winning bid was in the 70,000 range. So it would have been a lot more expensive for us. So I think the result was very, very well done by Director Holliday.
No, that's fine. Thank you very much. You've clarified the sort of the legalese there. Thank you very much.
Any further questions in regards to this motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? And the motion is carried. Thank you. What do we have? We're at 8 o'clock. We have a number of other motions to come forward. So I'm going to identify a recess right now for 10 minutes just to refresh and regroup. And then we'll be back here at 8:10. Okay. Thank you. So 3-minute warning, and then we'll start the meeting. Oh, we're missing the, oh, we have the deputy mayor. Okay. Since we're all back and sitting in, we'll just get going. It's 8:08, so a little 2 minutes early, but we'll try to push through so we can end on time this evening. So the next motion that's coming on the floor is that council directs staff to undertake the process of exempting the township of Leeds and Thousand Islands from the Retail Business Holiday Act, RBHA, and provide retail business establishments with a blanket exemption from holiday closures with the exception of mandatory closure dates as authorized by the RBHA and the Municipal Act 2001. And that the council directs staff to send a letter to the retail business establishments within the township that are licensed to sell liquor, that there is no objection to the sale of liquor on permitted holidays pending final disposition of legislative process respecting public consultation, council vote on bylaw and appeal periods. Can I have a mover and a seconder on this motion, please? So I have Deputy Mayor Lackey and then Councillor Foti. Any discussion on this motion? Pretty straightforward, I think. Deputy Mayor?
No, I think it's incumbent upon us to, there's too many things that are closed down. So it's incumbent upon us to sort of help our economy, our local economy. So whatever we can do to help, love to.
Any further comments or questions in regards to the motion that's on the floor? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? And the motion is carried. Thank you. Next motion on the floor is that council hereby declare 2 seats vacant on the Economic Development Committee and that council directs staff to advertise to fill the vacancies for the remainder of this council term. Can I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Olkey and then Deputy Mayor Lackey. I think it's fairly self-explanatory, so I don't think we need to debate much about this. So I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and the motion's carried. Thank you. Just as an addendum to that, though, the Economic Development Committee is actually doing quite a bit of work and has made great strides in the last little while. And I'm excited to see the fruit of the labor that's happening at that level. So next is, I believe, the notice of motion that Councillor Foti brought forward last week. I'll read the motion and then ask for a mover and seconder. The council form a waste management working group with the scope to review existing policies and procedures and to identify an overall comprehensive waste management strategy recommended to council. The council directs staff to bring back a report of the findings from the working group in a time frame that allows for any financial implications to be taken into consideration for the 2022 budget deliberations. Mover and a seconder. I'm assuming Councillor Foti would like to move it. And then a seconder, I'll have Councillor Olkey. Discussion on this motion. Councillor Jameson, then Deputy Mayor Lackey.
I indicated to Councillor Foti that I'd be very pleased to help on that. I'm particular interest in my weekly visits up to Lyndhurst for the purpose of depositing garbage. And I'd really like to talk trash with Councillor Foti on this subject. Thank you.
Excellent. Councillor Olkey, then Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to the two gentlemen who've put the motion and then just made the comments about trash talk. One of the first things I was interested in when we went to AMO was the provincial move on the circular economy and how this was going to assist us in all of this. And the second year, it just seemed to disappear off the agenda. So I have an interest in following this up. I'd also like to volunteer for this committee. And also, given my links to CRCA, it's important for conservation as well. And trash talking with my balcony buddy is always fun. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Olkey. Councillor Maybe.
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. As the other councillors indicate an interest to throw things in the bag and try to recycle it, I've also been very wanting to be on this type of committee and move this forward. So I also throw my name in there if it's appropriate, and I would look for the challenge of trying to get this one solved. So throw my hat in the ring too. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Lackey, I'm sorry you had your hand up earlier. I apologize.
That's okay. No, I just wondered if we could try and call upon our past people. We did have a committee that did a lot of work in our landfills. If there might be an opportunity to call upon them to get information, so we're not repeating history.
I'll actually go to the Director of Operations. I believe that when he became the director, he did come across the information that was left from the last advisory committee, if I'm not mistaken, unless it was something even further before that.
That's correct. No, when I did a bit of reorganization in my office, I came across a pretty substantial file for the Waste Committee previously. So we have all of that information, minutes and all those types of things from those meetings.
So I think that in the event that you sought any further clarification, that those individuals would be happy to provide any context from the information that you found in the drawer, so to speak. So it's a good point. Any further comments or questions in regards to the motion that's at hand? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed, and the motion is carried. So we'll take the offers of involvement and we'll discuss that. We'll get together with the director and the interested parties and then go out to the community if necessary. I'll do our announcements. Okay. So any unfinished business? I did skip over that before and I apologize. Any unfinished business? Don't see any hands shooting up. So next on the agenda is the mayor's update. There's not a ton more from last week other than we are in lockdown and we're supposed to be staying in place. We appreciate all residents complying and doing their level best to follow these rules and regulations. Today, the Minister of Education, along with the Premier, came out. The children will be staying at home online 2 additional weeks after the break, which I know will be difficult for a number of families, myself included. I have 2 young boys that online learning is difficult, mainly because of the lack of high speed. And I know our Director of Planning is working hard to get that RFP out there, or RFQ, RFI, whichever one of the acronyms it is. But this wave is probably the most difficult, at least it is for me. I know it's been difficult all along, but it just feels even more so a weight. I have a number of friends who work in healthcare. I'm concerned. I'm worried about my friends and my neighbors who work in the healthcare system. We are at the brink and we need to take this very seriously. My hope is that we come out the other side stronger, and that no worse for wear other than agitated, maybe a bit stir crazy, which we can live with. But we've done fairly well in these lockdowns, but we need to persevere and preserve whatever healthcare system remains to be accessible at this point. I know that we've been receiving patients from outside the area, and I know that's been difficult for people to see, but our healthcare system is provincial. And if you were living in another area and they were full, I'm fairly certain that you would want your health card to work, whether you were living in Peterborough, whether you're living in Cornwall, whether you're living in London, Ontario. So at the end of the day, it's about taking care of everyone. And so check on your neighbors, do what you can, and soldier through, and hopefully we'll see the end of it sooner rather than later. As far as any other announcements, I think everything else has basically been sent virtual. And I don't think we have all of our buildings are closed to the public. Our building department is going crazy right now, which is great news for the municipality. We have, unfortunately, also, there's been a number of building projects begun without building permits, which are now getting building permits. Our bylaw officers and our building officers are still out moving around the township as part of their essential service. And so if you are looking at doing a project at home, please, our offices are still open for information purposes. People are available by phone and by Zoom and by appointment if necessary. But we hope that everybody complies with that, as it saves time and hassle in the long run. So Marnie, did I hear something that you guys were up 200% for building permits so far this year? It's something crazy. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but all I know is that we're definitely up.
Yeah,
which is great. So that in the end will mean that values of properties will increase and maintain, and that's a good news for everyone around the area. So with that, I'll move on to the notice of motion. Does anybody have a notice of motion? Any notices? Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
I'm sorry, just going back to information items you said about people going stir crazy. I'm shaken, not stirred.
As far as notices of motion, are there any notices of motion? Any notices of motion? Last call. And I'll move on to announcements. Does anybody have announcements? Councillor Olkey and then Councillor Jameson.
Thank you, Worship, and through you, I have 3 announcements I'd like to make. The first one's a little bit poignant, and it shows some of the effect of the COVID crisis. At the midpoint of our term, I thought I would try to go back and make contact with people that I'd met during the election, see how we were doing from their point of view. And I wrote a letter to a gentleman who is an American resident and has been a summer resident, you see some resident here for 38 years. It was Judge James C. Tormey, a very distinguished man. Judge Tormey died in June of 2019. There were no obituaries up here. I received a very nice letter back from his widow, and there will be a courthouse named in his honor in Syracuse, New York. He was a supervisory judge. He looked after 20 different courts, 20 different judges. Very distinguished man, and if I can, I will attend the ceremony when they inaugurate the building. And I'd like to draw that because that's very separate. Sad thing to lose someone who's been here that many years, and his wife, his widow said that they had to sell the cottage. She just could not imagine going there without him. But he very much cared for his Canadian community, and he would go to our all candidate meetings because he couldn't vote, but he was very interested in the community and what went on here. So a great loss to us, really, and to his family and his own communities down there.
I would also go with you, Gord.
Okay. Thank you. Now, just completely to change that, I'm just going to change my persona a bit here. I have some kudos to pass on to our recreation director and department. The Thousand Island ATV club were in some kind of discussions, and there was some toing and froing on Facebook about it, and somebody was sort of hurling abuse at the township. But the ATV group came back and said, "Oh no, wonderful to deal with Ms. Goodman and her staff, and the township's doing everything it can to support recreational activities in these times." The specific thing was they're trying to get a trail over private land to link between Lyndhurst and Sealy's Bay. And from talking with them, they're having some success at doing that. And that's good news for local merchants and local recreation. And a pat on the back to Kim and her people. And the next thing is I'll just follow up with CRCA business. All trails and areas are open. The only washroom facilities that are open are in the visitor center in Little Cataraqui Creek. All the privies are closed. The other thing too is if you use the area, they're not picking up from the waste bins. So if you take in something, you take it out with you when you go, and it's daylight operations only. Their boat launches are open as well. And they are working on some, they probably already have them going, some virtual nature things that can be viewed at home for education and entertainment. And that's how CRCA is supporting us through this crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. 2 points I'm going to make before I take further announcements. I also want to recognize the death of our sovereign's most biggest supporter, Prince Philip. We've had our flags at half-mast. Whether you're supportive of the monarchy or not, they still are our sovereign, and the respect is due. To live 99 years and see so much throughout your lifetime is a magnificent thing, and I'm sure that the whole in the royal family will be irreparable. So I'll pay our respects, and we'll likely send a letter onto the Royal Palace to send our condolences. Also, on a happier note, 2 days short of 1 year. Our CAO has been here since April 14th, 2019. And he hasn't given me a letter of resignation yet, so I'm going to assume he's going to make it the next 2 days. And I know that I'm very, very appreciative of his guidance, his calm demeanor, and our ability to really get through a very difficult time and talk about being thrown in at the deep end. So we thank you for your quiet passion and perseverance through this very difficult time. So thank you. Thank you. And to all the rest of the staff, probably just as much so, if not more so, because they were here before him and still have not received any resignation letters. So I appreciate all the directors and the clerk and the fire chief, the acting fire chief, who's here with us, that continue to serve our municipality along with the rest of our staff through very difficult times. There was something on CBC radio the other day, and it was a CAO from a hospital in Barrie. And the discussion was basically this: the pandemic is the pandemic to you. Everyone's experience throughout this pandemic has been different. And it's difficult to just paint a wide brush over the experience that everyone's had. Some people have been touched by COVID very personally. Some people have had no brush with it. Some people have lost jobs. Some people have never missed a paycheck. It's been very difficult for people for very different reasons. And sometimes just the isolation was enough. So I just hope that we all be as patient as we can with each other. And we'll get through it together. So are there any further announcements? Councillor Jameson.
Just on a far less or a lower level, but important to some people. The township is providing trash bags for the purposes of spring cleanup, which is much appreciated. And Lyndhurst LRC is already pretty much organized for pickup at the Green Gecko. The other groups will be chipping in, but the caution is to go about this extremely cautiously in context of what the mayor has been saying. So I appreciate the support of the township in helping the community groups very much. And I also want to congratulate the CAO, who will ultimately succeed in understanding unmute from Zoom.
Any further announcements before we wrap this up? Seeing none, we'll go on to the bylaws, and I'll read the motion before I ask for a mover and a seconder that 3 readings and final passage be granted bylaws number 21-021, 21-023, 21-024, 21-025, and that 3 readings and final passage be granted to bylaw number 21-026, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Corporation of the Township of Leeds and the Thousand Islands at its special meeting held on March the 30th, 2021, Committee of the Whole meeting held April 6, 2021, and council meeting held on April 12th, 2021. Mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Jameson, then Councillor Fody. Any discussion on this motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, please signify. All those opposed? And the motion is carried. Next motion on the floor is that council adjourn. A mover and a seconder, non-debatable motion. Deputy Mayor Lackey and Councillor Maybe. All those in favor of adjournment, please signify. All those opposed, and we're carried. Thank you, everyone, for your time and your attention, and we look forward to seeing you next month. Take care.
Bye, everybody.